Hello there, Russell Liu, K7RRL, hailing from Washington State. I was asked to do a video on how to put the contacts in a Connect Systems CS-800D mobile radio. I figured it'd be easier to do a video than try to type this all out. The Connect Systems CS-800D is a full-featured DMR radio with outstanding build and sound quality. The CPS used to program the radio is quite extensive, and this video is intended to explain how to load up to 130,000 digital contacts that the radio is capable of holding. I personally haven't seen any other instructions on this subject and have several acquaintances that have asked how I accomplish this task. If it's done wrong, it will create a code plug that's unusable. Please save your existing code plug before starting this procedure. I'd consider this procedure to be intermediate in nature, not really for a beginner. So make a backup before you start and have fun. In this procedure, we'll first obtain the contact list from amateurradio.digital in the correct format for the CS-800D. And I'm going to also get one that's the free one, the raw version of 160,000 contacts, and I'll show you how to do that first. The next steps in the procedure will be to export the current digital contacts from your CPS into a CSV file. And then we'll take the two CSV files and merge them together using Microsoft Excel. Finally, we'll import it back into the CPS. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is go to amateurradio.digital and download the full CSV file with everybody in the world. So there we go, and that's my login, but we're going to go to home. I'm going to get the free one because not everybody wants to pay the $12 for it. I highly suggest it, actually. It makes this much easier. But generic CSV file, we're going to go down here and we're going to download this. And I'm going to go ahead and open it up. And there's what it looks like. There's 143,000 lines in the bottom of that. You can see by hitting Control Shift and down arrow. Down here at the bottom, you see 144,611 folks currently in the DMR file. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to our customer programming software. I'm going to go open up my code plug, and I have to go to, it's on my server. I should have had this out before now. That's alright. My radio files, I have a few, and this code plug here. We're going to go into take a look at the code plug real quick. You can see how many contacts are in here. There's 72. Now, since I don't want to mess with my original code plug, and I highly suggest you make a in-work file so you don't mess with the original, I'm going to go File, Save As. I'm going to put this on my desktop so I can find it easily later. And I'm just going to call it code CS-800D in work.rdb and save. It's going to ask me if I want to replace it. Yes, I do. Okay. From here, now I've made a copy of my code plug, so I'm messing with a copy. I'm not going to mess with the original. I'm going to go to Tools, and export digital contacts, and I'm going to call my current ones the current, and I'm going to put this on my desktop also. You've seen I've done this a few times, and save those. And yes, I want to replace it, and it does that successfully. Now we're going to go back to my desktop, and we're going to go look at the current list and look at how it's formatted. So it's in some weird font. You've got 5 columns. You got the number column, you got call alias, call type, call ID, and receive tone. The call alias is your talk group name, and the call type is group call. For these are your talk groups that you go on. All of the contacts that you put in will be private call. The call ID is your talk group number for group call, or it's the DMR ID for the private contacts. And receive tones depends on how you set your CPS up, but it might be yes or no. We'll compare that to the raw contacts. You have radio ID, which is your DMR ID. You've got call sign, name, city, state, country, and remarks. So the columns don't match up, so we have to modify and pare this down a little bit because there's 140 some thousand contacts in there. You can't put that many in your radio. You can only put 130,000 with the latest firmware. So we'll have to modify this, pare it down to what countries we want, and I'll show you how to do that, and then put it in the right format, the right columns, in the right sequence, and then we'll cut and paste it into our current at the bottom. So why we're doing this at the bottom, it's very important. If you put it at the top, these things are all in place in your CPS. So on your channel, like this one here is channel 3, number 3, it's worldwide. Let me open this up a little bit. Worldwide English, it's talk group 13. But if I change that to something else, all the channels that I have in my CPS that were on this third line will have the new talk group, and it messes it all up. It gets it all out of sync. So I'll show you how to do this. Okay, we're going to go back to our raw contacts here and notice the difference. I think I already mentioned this. Notice the difference in this. We don't need a lot of these columns. Remarks we don't need. There's no place in the CPS for remarks, so I'm going to right click on that and select delete, and that column goes away. You've got country. That's something we can use for now to manipulate the data. We've got state. You could use state to manipulate the data if you wanted to only select certain states. You could use cities if you wanted to manipulate the data. You can't use names though, so we're going to get rid of name. Right click and delete. I'm going to use country to manipulate my data, so I'm going to get rid of the city and a state also. So now this is what's left. And then on Microsoft Excel, there's the data up here on the menu line. I'm going to click on data, and I'm going to click on filter. I'm going to grab all 3 of these and click on filter. Sorry. You'll notice that puts a little drop down list box here underneath all of these. I'm going to click on that drop down list box, and I'm going to unselect all. I want to select only the countries that I want in my for contacts, because you can't put all 144,000 contacts in the radio. There's only 130 spots to put 144,000. So I'm going to select Canada, Mexico, and the US. That's all I want in my for contacts. Canada. And I went past Mexico. Oh, there it is. Mexico. And the US. And I'm going to click OK. If you look down here, it selected 70,000 of 144,000. So we just pared that list down from 70,000 to 144. And you have to do that because you can't fit all of it in the radio. So the way that Excel works, it just hides those ones that you're not using. So in order for me to kind of delete the ones that I'm not using, I have to start a new file. So I'm going to go File and New and a blank workbook, and here we are. I'm going to save this as on my desktop, and I'm going to call it New. And click Save, and I want to replace it. So we'll go back to our raw contacts. If you want to go to the top, you hit Control Shift and the up arrow, and that gets us back to the top. I'm going to select the top line, and I'm going to hit Control Shift down arrow, and it selects all of the data except for the 70-odd thousand that we don't want. And I'm going to hit Control C for copy. I'm going to go over to New, and I'm going to hit Control V for paste. Now we have only 70,000. I'll show it to you. Shift Control down arrow, get to the bottom. We only have 70,412 contacts. That's good. Shift Control up, and we're back to the top. Okay, we can go back to our raw contacts file, and we can close this down. We don't need it anymore. So I'm going to close this. Don't save, it doesn't matter. No, I don't need that. So now we have New and we have Current. So now I need to make these columns match. So we've got call alias, which is our on the current or the new file will be it'll be call sign, and we have call ID, which will be radio ID. So I'm going to go ahead and change that right now. Call ID. And then alias. Is there anything else in there we need? Current? No. Call alias. It doesn't really matter. I'm not going to select it anyhow. So I'm not going to put this first column in, and I'll show you later. So we got call alias will be all the way to the right, then call type, then call ID, new. So we want to insert a column here, and then we're going to select this column, and you can see right where it turns into a little plus with arrows on it. We're going to move that column over. Now the next column, the B column, should be, or the C column, call type. So this is going to be insert, and we're going to call this call type. And then next is call ID, and I think that's correct now, right? Call ID, and the last one will be receive tone, I think. Receive tone. So now that we've picked out our countries, we don't need the country column anymore because it doesn't fit in the CPS anywhere. So we're just going to right click on that and delete it. There we go. Okay, I'm not much of an Excel guru, and there's probably people that know how to do this a little easier than I do, but this is the way I know how to do this. For call type for all of these, we want to call it private call, so the radio knows what it is. It's a private call. It's not a group call. And the way to do that all the way down this column of 77,000 folks is click on this, double click right here. You move your cursor up right on top of that little dot. You see the dot there? You see the cursor changes into a plus, and we double click right there. And that's going to copy private call all the way down that column. In fact, I'll show you. Control Shift down, and we go a little further. You can see it all the way down to the bottom. Private call. Control Shift arrow up goes back to the top, and receive tone. We want it to be no, or I do. You might not, but I do. Actually, if you find your friends on here, you can put receive tone yes, and if they private call you, it'll tone the radio. So I'm going to start with no for now. So right here, double click, and down it went. And we'll check that. Control Shift down. There it is, all the way down to the bottom. Okay, so now we've got the columns correct. We've added private call and receive tone, and everything else is in order. So what we need to do is copy and paste this into our current spreadsheet. So I'm going to select the top row here. I'm not selecting, something happened there. My mouse is not so good. I'm not going to select the names. I don't need the names. I'm going to press Control Shift down arrow, and that goes all the way down to the bottom of the 70,000. I'm going to press Control C for copy. You see it puts the moving green lines on there. We're going to go back to our current list. We can go to the bottom of our current list. If I can get my mouse to work. I'm going to click in this one. I don't want to click in this one because I don't want it in that column. I want that column empty. I'm going to click in this one, and I'm going to hit Control V, and there they all are. Okay, the next step is going to be to enter all the numbers in here, and we don't want to do that for 70,000 times or 77,000 times, whatever it was. I have to use a formula in here. So the formula is pretty easy. You type in, you click into the next column down, or the next cell down. You type in equals. Then we click on the cell above it. You see it puts A73. That's column A, row 73. And then we're going to type in +1. You see I put 73 in there? Pretty simple. Now we're going to do the same little trick that we did before. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to go to the plus, and I'm going to double click. And there you have it. It just numbered the whole column. And we can check that out by going Control Shift down, and there it is. You have the whole column numbered. I'll go back up to the top and go down to where this is. Now this next step is, I don't know if it's required or not. I'm going to do it anyway. I don't know how the CPS handles different fonts, so I want to make all of the format the same, so all the fonts the same. So the way we do that is we click on that, hold down the shift key, and then click on the no over here, the last column. It selects that whole row. I don't need to select the first column, it's already in the right format. I double click on the home menu. See where it says Format Painter, double click on that and you'll see it selected it, and then we're going to go Control Shift down arrow, and it just painted that same format across the whole spreadsheet all the way down, 70 some thousand contacts. Alright, so you would think this thing would be ready to go. We've got our columns right, we've got our format right. One thing's left though. You see up here we have formulas in here that create these numbers down from 72 down. So the CPS will see that formula and it will not like it. So what we have to do is copy this values only into a new spreadsheet. So we're going to go File, New, plain old workbook, blank workbook. Sorry if I was doing that a little fast. Go back to our current spreadsheet. We're going to go clear to the top. We're going to select the top, hit Control Shift down arrow, and that selects all of those cells. We're going to hit Control Copy. We're going to go to our new workbook. We're going to right click on the A1, right click. You got paste options. You got paste. We got paste values only. We got paste formulas only. Transpose, formatting. We want to paste values. And if you look here, it's now just a value. And we lost our formatting. Okay, now this should be ready to go into the CPS. So we've got to save it first. So we're going to File, Save. I'm going to put it on my desktop. I'm going to call it Newest. You can call it whatever you want as long as you remember. So click Save, and it's okay to replace it. Okay, one thing I failed to mention, and I made the mistake, and it would error out when it tries to go into the CPS. When I typed private call, I didn't have a space here, but I had a space after the last L. You cannot have that space. It will not work. So when you're typing private call, do not space after the last L or before the P. And it has to be exactly like that. So now it's ready to go. I'm going to save it once just for grins, and go ahead and close it up and close this up. We don't need it anymore. So we're back at our CPS and we only have 72, just like we had when we started. I'm going to go to Tools, Import Digital Contacts, and I'm going to go click on the Newest and hit Open. Now this is going to take some time, like a couple of minutes with 77,000 contacts. So I'll speed up through this until it says complete. Okay, we have imported our contact list successfully. That took about 2 or 3 minutes, and I really wish they would put like a percentage bar or something so you could see that it was actually doing something, but that's alright. They don't. Just be patient and wait. If it goes like 15 minutes or so, you probably have a problem. So I'm going to hit OK, and then I'm going to open up the contact list, and this takes some time again, so I'll speed it up if I have to. Okay, the contact list shown up. It looks like you're locked up, but it doesn't lock up. It's just busy. And you can see now we have all these private calls in here. There's 70,000 of them. So that's it. Save your code plug and go download it into the radio. So with all that data, all that extra data in there, it's going to take a little longer to download. Not extremely long, but it'll take longer. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'm sure this is going to answer a few questions about the CS-800 and how to load the contacts on. All right, thank you very much, and we'll see you on the airwaves.